Well, real quick before we get kicking, how you doing, man?
I'm doing every year. I think as you get into your 70s, you start to appreciate daily living. Like, I live today. It's just that the problem is that as you must be aware because you're a fan of the genre of music that we play, it's a dying genre. Literally, people are dying.
Oh,
Like bands are dying. I mean, like it's almost every day I get a text from somebody telling me so and so is sick, so and so is this, so and so is that. I mean, let me look. When you're a teenager and you're in a band and your friends are dying, that's because they were idiots. They were just drugs,
oh,
alcohol,
it's some sort of shitty decisions.
yeah, a death by
Right.
misadventure,
Yeah.
and
Right.
I lived through that. I lived through a lot of it. And then you go through like a 40-year period where everything seems to be, all those who are dead are dead. So now, they're gone. So now you got like all the survivors. And then the survivors hit their 70s and they start to die because of, natural causes,
The
So,
age, man. Right. Exactly.
I mean, I just heard, I don't want to mention the artist because it's not fair, but someone just recently saw a major artist perform at the Kiss, at the White House Kennedy honors thing,
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
and one of the bands that were paying tribute to Kiss, I'm assuming,
Yeah. Yeah.
one of the stars in that band, the guy said he looked like he could barely walk, like he looked
Oh,
he.
yeah.
So I mean, it's just, and I'm not gonna say who, because hopefully, maybe he just had a bad day.
Yeah.
Maybe he just had a bad day, right?
Yeah.
Maybe the medication didn't work that day. And I'm not kidding you. Sometimes you wake up and the medication works, and sometimes it doesn't. And I hope in that case that's what it is. But the point is, you hear about these things all the time, and I'd be lying to say it doesn't play on your mind
Hmm.
a little bit. It just everyone's got issues. What major band is out there? It's been together 50 years that 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 doesn't have one or two band members gone or
Hmm.
replaced, or only one or two band members are left.
And I think what people seem to forget, though, is that this isn't just like straight up rock and roll. Like this music is like really fucking intense to play. It takes a lot of dexterity, it takes a lot of movement, and so it's no wonder to me that some of these guys, especially the 80s metal dudes, are coming up and all of a sudden, they're having arthritis, they're having all kinds of different issues. I mean, I'm 52 and I've got that. You know what I mean?
Right,
Like,
right, right. Or neck pain because of headbanging. I mean, all the cliches, all the
uh-huh.
cliches. It's just, um, rock and roll is a young man's game, and
Mhm.
no one thought 50 years ago. I don't think if you asked Alice Cooper or Kiss or Judas Priest or Van or any of us 50 years ago, what's it going to be like in 50 years? I don't think any one of us would have laughed. They would have laughed, right? What do you mean 50 years? Is the world going to be here in 50 years? I don't.
You're like,
It's it's
you're like, I'm
absurd.
not 30 yet. What's going on, man?
Exactly. It's absurd. We couldn't have and now the thing is we're all like, we're all 70 something. We all have
Mhm.
kids or grandkids, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
And then we say to ourselves, like we run into each other and we go, where'd the time go? Like,
Oh,
where did it go? Like, wasn't it just yesterday that we did a tour together, and now we're talking 1982
yeah.
or 83, which is 40 years ago.
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, the heyday of our success at MTV was 40 years ago.
Hmm.
Me, Dee, and Eddie have been together 50 years. Eddie Ojeda and I went to high school together. We've been together 55 years.
It's
That's
incredible.
crazy, right? That's
That's a,
crazy.
I mean, that's a long time to be friends, much less be working partners in a band.
Yeah, yeah. It's a long ass time. I mean, when Eddie and I met in high school, we were in a high school band. We got together just to put this in perspective. I got kicked out of my high school and was put into this other high school, and Eddie was there, right? And Eddie and I meet each other.
Mhm.
And immediately he's got long hair. I got long hair. What do you do? I'm a musician. I play guitar. Oh yeah, so do I. Who do you like? I go to the Fillmore East. I saw all these bands.
Mhm.
So Led Zeppelin just came out with their first album at the time that January of '69. That's when I went. And that's when I met Eddie.
Mhm.
And I think I saw Zeppelin that week open for Iron Butterfly,
That's
and
incredible.
I didn't even go to see Zeppelin. I went to see Iron Butterfly, and because Zeppelin, I mean, I had heard of Zeppelin. I read about it in Rolling Stone. I read that the New Yardbirds,
Mhm.
that was Jimmy Page's band, he took over, was the predecessor for Zeppelin, and they had played 6 months earlier at the Anderson Theater. And they had done songs that sounded like Zeppelin. They did a song
Mhm.
called "I'm Confused," which is "Dazed and Confused." If you buy the new Yardbirds album, recorded live at the Anderson Theater, you'll hear you'll hear the genesis of Zeppelin. Point
Right.
being, point being, it's a hell of a long time ago. You know, that's the point. I mean, my wife gave me a shirt that said, "I'm so old, I saw Led Zeppelin on stage." That's what and I said, I got a better shirt. I'm so old, I saw the Grateful Dead as an opening band. Okay. Which I
Well,
did. Which I did.
that's
I saw the
amazing.
Grateful Dead open for Janis
I was
Joplin.
just gonna say, was that Big Brother that they were opening for?
No, no, Janis had just gone solo.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, yeah. So
So
they were,
the song Lord, Won't You Give Me a
yeah.
Mercedes? Yeah, that album Pearl had just come out.
Oh, that's
And
so great.
she was touring with her new, I mean, I'd already seen Big Brother anyway, but
Yeah.
Pearl had just come out. She was headlining, and the Dead were opening, and I'd always wanted to see the Grateful Dead. I read that they do 6 hour shows, and of course when you're an opening band, you don't do a 6 hour show.
Right.
You play a 40-minute opening set. Can you imagine the Grateful Dead doing a 40-minute set? Can
It's
you
like two
imagine it for a
songs.
second? Not even that. They tuned up and said goodnight.
That's amazing. That's
I
like
even
that's like Dark Star. It's like
I
30 minutes, I think.
Yeah,
You know?
I said it to Bob Weir. I met Bob Weir once. I said I saw you open twice. So you open for jazz, so you open for Country Joe. I said my memory was you tuned up and said goodnight. And he went, "Yeah,
That's about right.
probably." And I said, "No, actually what I think you did was you tuned up and played St. Stephen
Uh-huh.
and said goodnight the first time, and then I think you tuned up and played China Cat Sunflower the second time." That's weird, right? I mean, that's weird.
That's that is about right because I mean I've been a Deadhead since '94. Never got to see the actual Dead, but I saw every incarnation of like Bobby's bands and stuff like this. And my wife's a big Deadhead with me, not a metal head like I am, but we started going to see Dead and Company shows and stuff. I think I saw probably like 22 of those shows. It's crazy that he is playing better and more like roped in and honed in than he was when he was younger. And I wonder if a lot of that comes from discipline. Like they still play these 3.5 hour shows, but like there's something to be said about like watching this guy up there who's almost 80 and going, you're playing for 3.5 hours, you're improvising, you're doing this, that, and the other, but like it's not chaotic, like it's almost like I feel like at one time they were looking for their way and now it's like they kind of found it, but they're exploring outside of it, if that
Well,
makes
they have a
sense.
million songs, number one,
Oh yeah.
and John Mayer is a great guitar player.
Oh
I mean,
yeah.
he's fabulous. I think he's better than Garcia. Yeah, people go, "Oh, man, you
Oh,
can't say that," but to
no.
be, but I can say it. Do you know why I can say it? Because I saw Pigpen 27 times with the Dead. Okay, so though when people talk to me about Dead cred, I go, I said, how many times you ever see Pigpen with the Grateful Dead? I didn't start seeing him till I saw. So then you didn't see him with Pigpen.
That's
Okay.
like a mad flex in the Dead community. Like I've seen
Yeah.
people with shirts that say that's cool, but I saw Pigpen.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, so I saw Pigpen, who was the best singer in the band, by the way.
Oh, he was amazing.
He was an
Yeah.
amazing singer, and he was my favorite singer. And my favorite musician in the band
Mhm.
was Phil Lesh,
Oh,
who is a spectacular bass player. Much
ungodly
more
good.
interesting on bass. Yeah, much more interesting on bass than Jerry ever was on guitar.
Hmm.
And to me,
Yeah.
they're obviously Garcia's got the legendary thing, which is whatever. Everyone's entitled to love who they want. I don't care. But I went to see the Dead because I loved the rhythm section. I
Yeah.
loved Phil Lesh, I loved Pigpen, and I loved Mickey Hart
Hmm.
and Bill Kreutzmann.
Yeah.
I loved the way they all meshed. And in those days, truly they were a jazz band's mentality dressed up as a rock band.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Their explorations were jazz,
Yeah.
were based. So they would go wherever the night took them, and
Yeah.
most of the time I saw them, they took them to the right destination. They were
Yeah.
fantastic. I mean,
Yeah.
what I loved about them was that they created a cult
Hmm.
of people who just couldn't wait to hear more, you
Yeah.
know? And I always wanted to be in a band that that people said, wow, they're excellent.
Yeah.
I want more,
Hmm.
And so even though people say, well, what does the Grateful Dead have in common with Twisted Sister? What they have in common is a desire to be great all
See,
the
and that
time.
that was going to be my question because, and I kind of knew that was the answer, was that anytime you are a fan of a band or you're inspired by a band, even if you don't sound like that band or that you don't even, I don't know, remotely look like them, act like them, right, and whatever, we're all taking lessons from bands and artists that we really admire and that we look at that and go, okay, like I might not sound like you, but there's an aspect of what you do, whether it's how you perform on stage or whether it's how you approach writing or whether it's how you treat your fans, like that's what I want to take from you. And I feel like everything we do, we're just kind of picking from but we're hoping to pick the right things from these these artists.
I'm sure that the inspiration factor to any musician, any artist, is taken from that,
Hmm.
whatever that is, however it embodies, whatever, how they treat their fans, how they sound, how they do this, and the artist, let's say they go on stage 3 hours late. I hope you take a lesson from that and you never do that. All
Oh,
right, I mean, you never do that. So,
100%.
showing a complete lack of respect to your audience is something I would never emulate.
Hmm.
Twisted Sister was proud that when the contract says you're on stage at 9:15, you're on stage at 9:15. When we were playing the bars and the first set is at 10:30 in the evening, the first set's at 10:30 in the evening. I mean, we were fastidious
Hmm.
in our discipline of performance technique. Now, to someone who could care less about Twisted Sister, like, oh yeah, you suck, they look like whatever. They don't even
Whatever.
understand. Yeah, but whatever.
Yeah.
They don't understand the care we put into the responsibility of making sure that your night was a great night
Hmm.
matters. When you go to a baseball game, baseball players play 162 games a year.
Hmm.
Okay. That's a lot. That's twice as much as any other sport. I mean, basketball, hockey is 80 games, football is 17, baseball's 162. And it dawned on me at some point, and I'm a big baseball fan, but it dawned on me at some point the reason why these players don't get either that upset or don't get that exhilarated is because they always know there's a game tomorrow. So if they screw up today, they'll solve it tomorrow. All
Hmm.
right, which is fair because of the amount that they play. I think Twisted, when you play as much as we did in the bars, which was thousands of shows, you learn to overcome every problem. So if on a given night there was a problem between this song and this song, or there was a problem with something, you made sure the next night you didn't have that problem.
Right.
You may have a new one, but you don't have that one. And eventually you solve every problem.
Hmm.
I mean, you literally solve over time. In my book, Twisted Business, I discuss this. It's called The Boredom of Excellence.
Yep.
And it's a theory I had, which is you do things over and over and over. Now, there's a cliche that says that insanity is doing the same thing over again, expecting different results. There's a
Yeah.
cliche, right?
Oh,
I
absolutely.
happen, I disagree. I believe that if you do things over and over again, incrementally without you realizing it, you improve every time, but you don't even know why. Why do you think a swimmer swims the 5,000 laps and a skier goes down a mountain 8,000 times and a
Hmm.
violin player plays 8 hours a day? Because the repetition, the muscle memory, the discipline, it works its way into the great ones. That's why
Hmm.
the great ones are great. The great ones are great because of that. That's why they're great. You know, when a guy wins, when someone wins a gold medal on the slalom, that's because that person's been up at 5 o'clock in the morning for the last 30 years. You don't. You sit on your couch with a remote control, and you pay to watch somebody else do that. Okay. Same thing with
You're
the
basically a
performer.
couch judge. You know what I
Well,
mean?
well, you
Like,
are. Yeah,
yeah.
but you're a concert goer. Same deal.
Oh,
You know,
yeah.
you're the receptor of someone else's discipline, and if they
Mhm.
do the discipline right, the show is great. If they do the discipline wrong, the show is not great. And so I think we really worked hard from a
Yeah.
discipline standpoint to be great all the time.
Well, and the thing you were talking about earlier about how fast time seems like just it seems to fly so quickly. And I told you the story the last time we talked was that, I was first exposed to you guys 1984 on Friday night videos. And when I saw you playing that yellow and black guild, I just remember going, that's it. That's what I want. And my parents said, fuck, he's never going to be a doctor. Like, we're shit out of luck now. And, my parents, they didn't buy me the black and yellow guild, of course, but they bought me a Westone electric guitar. And I played that thing literally, fingers bleeding, blood blisters, everything. And part of that was because what fueled me through your music was that, I was the fat kid. I was bullied. I was made fun of. And man, when you get Stay Hungry, the song in your head, you can take on the fucking world, man. So I went to school the next day and fucking clocked that guy, broke his nose, and I was left alone for the next. But Twisted was what gave me that, or not even something that gave me that, but it harnessed that out of me. And do you get tired of hearing that story? Because I'm sure I'm not the only one that's told you this a million times.
No, well, I don't because I tell the same story. I saw the Beatles on TV and said that's what I want to do, and that was
Mhm.
it. And so did millions of other people. I mean, that is probably the most famous story of all of guys my age. I saw the Beatles at Sullivan shows,
Yep.
and uh, and then of course I think back to how lucky I am because the music industry is basically a pyramid scheme,
Oh yeah.
and very few get to that exalted point. But here's the point though. When I saw the Beatles on TV, I was 11 years old,
Mhm.
February 9th, 1964.
Mhm.
Okay. Our gold record, Stay Hungry, went gold in June of 84. So if someone had put their arm on my shoulder at the moment I made that brash statement to my mother watching the Ed Sullivan show that I want that. And someone said, well, you will be, you'll have a gold record. Because in those days, that's the only significant cliche you heard when you made it. You had a gold
You got
record.
a
No
gold
one knows
record.
exactly what it
Right.
meant, gold record.
Yeah.
So if someone said to me, you'll have a gold record, John, and I would say, when? In like 5 years? And remember, I'm 11 years old, right? And they goes, no, 20 years and 6 months from today. And I go, 20 years and 6 months? I have to practice 20 years and 6 months? I don't think I would have done it. It was the ability to not know. It was the joy of never knowing. So it's a lot of dedication, and yeah, I don't get sick of hearing it. And I say that to artists who I meet. Like I met Eric Clapton. I said, "Oh, I know you're really sick of hearing this, but
Mhm.
it's your guitar playing that inspired me to become a guitar." Like I said that to him, and his answer was very respectful. He said, "Yes, people tell me that all the time, but all that matters is it inspired you to become who you are." And I went like, wow.
And that kind of goes back almost full circle talking
Very,
about
very
a,
cool, very cool answer.
a lesson of how to engage. Because I got lucky before he passed away. I got to meet Greg Allman, and it was a book signing. I had 5 minutes with him, and I walked up to the table, and I looked at him, and I almost was welling up in tears because I was so emotional. And I said, Greg, I know you've heard this a million times, but you're one of the reasons that I wanted to become a lyricist and a songwriter in my later years. And he looked over at me and he goes, oh yeah, I've heard that a million times, but it's always like the first time I heard it. And he goes, bring it in. And I was like, oh my God. But like that is my memory that I'll take with me forever, meeting Greg
Yeah.
Allman,
Well, obviously he's a great guy. Ronnie
Yeah.
Dio used to treat his fans like gold.
Oh,
Ronnie Dio, the story goes that at the end of a show, he'd be at the bus, he'd be in the parking lot, and he stayed there till the last fan left. That's man, that is Ronnie was one of the greatest guys. We played with him a bunch of times,
Hmm.
and one day we were playing a festival in Greece, and my daughter was with me on tour, and my daughter wandered into Dio's trailer by mistake, and he was asleep
Now,
on a
how old was
chair.
she at the time?
Oh, she was 12.
Oh, okay,
You know,
yeah, okay, yeah,
she was like
yeah.
backstage. I mean, she was looking for my
Uh-huh.
trailer.
Yeah.
And when I realized, I ran in, I saw her, I said, Ron, I'm so sorry. He goes, JJ, she's a kid. She's a daughter. She doesn't know. Can I get you something? Would you like some candy? Like, in other words,
I can
couldn't have
hear
been
his
more,
voice saying all this, by the way, as you're telling the
yeah,
story.
he couldn't have been more gracious. I mean, it would have surprised me if he said, "Get this bitch out of my." I mean, it would have completely and utterly destroyed my feeling for Ronnie. But
Uh-huh.
it never would have been Ronnie. The
Right.
point
Yeah.
is, I responded out of respect because it was my daughter made a mistake, and he was
Mhm.
like, "Don't traumatize this girl. She's a kid.
Yeah.
She walked in the wrong dressing room. Big deal. Like I'm the bad father, right? I'm the bad guy. He's the good guy. I'm like, why are you disciplining her like that? You
It's
know?
like, why aren't you watching your kid? And it's
Yeah.
like,
He was like, come on in, sweetheart. Disregard. Is that your dad? He's an idiot. Yeah, come on in. What would you like? You know? So, and he was like, Ronnie was just like that all the time. The sweetest,
so
the
when it came
sweetest.
to you getting to meet fans, like especially like in the 80s, like at the height, I can imagine at that point meeting fans is hard because you're just being fucking just bombarded by
Yeah.
people.
The biggest problem I had was getting sick,
Okay.
getting a cold. I mean, seriously,
Yeah.
that was my biggest fear. Not
Hmm.
that I wanted to meet them, but they're coughing at you, they're
Oh,
shaking it. And I wore gloves a lot because I didn't. I'm sorry. I have a responsibility, which is not to be sick.
right.
They're put on a good show, so I didn't avoid fans.
Hmm.
I just took precautions
Yeah.
because I didn't need to get sick.
Hmm.
That was it. But other than that, no. I hate to use to be honest. That's a horrible cliche. The truth is you either appreciate the position you're in,
Hmm.
you really appreciate it. You go, man, I'm just so lucky, and I'm just never going to take this for granted. Or you're a narcissistic, self-absorbed prick who can't be bothered, right?
Right. Hmm.
And then there's plenty of stories of plenty of people like that.
Oh
Prince
yeah.
did not have a Prince had a horrible reputation
Hmm.
of abusing people and fans. I mean,
Yeah.
I never met him. I had friends who worked for him, and I heard horror stories. And I
Oh
just thought to
yeah.
myself, why would you treat people like that? Like, now he didn't treat me like that, so I can't say that I saw it. But if it's
Hmm.
true what I heard, I don't get it.
Yeah.
I don't get it. But look, it didn't stop him from selling like a gazillion records. The truth is, I say to most people, you don't ever want to meet your heroes. You want to be the beneficiary of their talent, but you really don't want to meet them, or you absolutely don't want to work for them.
Hmm.
Because if they're really screwed up, you will see that when you work for them,
Hmm.
and then you'll hate them and you'll resent them. And I know plenty of people who work for some of the biggest stars in the world who hate them
Yeah.
and resent them because these stars take it out on somebody and
Yeah.
they take it out on those people. And again, why? I don't know why. I
Yeah.
don't. I can't. There's no predicting it. I have no idea. It's just a shame. It's a shame that people have to do that. That's all.
Well, so I mean, with that being said, you know, obviously the big news is next year we got Twisted hitting the road, which I'm fucking ecstatic about. Look, man, I went from being 12 to 52 and I've not seen you guys live ever because either I by the time I was old enough for my parents to let me go to shows, y'all were gone. The reunion shows
Mhm.
usually were further away from me than I could get to. This year, I'm gonna hop on a fucking plane if I have to. So what are we looking at as far as, I mean, obviously I'm not going to ask you for specific dates, but are we looking at something a little more extensive this year? I mean, next year, or are we going to look at something that's a little more controlled, like maybe like the 14 or 15 show run that you guys would usually do?
Probably very controlled
Okay.
because it was never an intention to do it again.
Hmm.
Never. I had to be talked into it,
Okay. Yeah.
and D really wanted to do it, And in a way, it's a victory lap tour. In a way, it's called Twisted Forever, Forever Twisted.
Hmm.
It's 50 years of me and Eddie and D, who we've been shoulder to shoulder since February of '76. So most people who have no idea of the history of the band don't realize that we've played with 10 different bass players and drummers. They don't even
Hmm.
understand that. They don't get it. We know it. We know it.
The
But the point
family tree is
is,
amazing. Like it
it's
just
it's
goes out.
huge. It goes out. Yeah, it just goes out. And the stories and those stories of those family trees are just as equally compelling and crazy. But
Hmm.
a lot of bands have that. I mean, Fleetwood Mac's story is
Oh.
Eagles. Like there's bands been around forever have these long tentacles.
Hmm.
So it's called Twisted Forever, Forever Twisted, or I call it Sex, Prescription Drugs, and Rock and Roll. That is what I.
Oh my God. Please put that on one of the shirts, dude.
That's my
Seriously.
secondary. That's my secondary tour. You
Well,
know,
so yeah, I mean, because the reason I was asking was because obviously I'm going to make it happen regardless, because this is a pretty incredible moment for Twisted Sister fans. Because, like I said, I was like, fuck, I missed the boat. Nothing was working for me, and I was like, okay, this time the boat's coming. I don't care what I need. If I have to take a helicopter to the boat, I'm gonna get on that fucking boat, you know. But my first thought about this was, well, first off, one of the things I loved is that even going back and listening to some of the last shows on the that you guys did, you were still bringing the fire. You still sounded fucking good. Everybody was tight. It still had this monstrous feel to it. But one of the things I was curious about was going into this tour, like, are there some songs that have yet to be played that you are looking at this list of songs and going, I would love to fucking play this one because we never got to it or we didn't play it enough?
there probably are
Yeah.
some, but the problem is when you're doing 60 minutes or 75 minutes, because that's what you're contracted for, you're in the same dilemma that any other band is who's been together 50 years with a million albums. And that dilemma is this: do you play the 17 songs everybody wants to hear,
Mm-hmm.
or do you replace a couple of them with other more obscure stuff? Right? That's
Hmm.
always the big question, right? And my answer to that question is if you're playing for the fans, you give them exactly what they want. That's my theory.
Hmm.
If you're playing for yourself, it's different. But if you're really playing for the fans and you understand most of them want to hear these 17, I guarantee you, if we laid out, these are the songs we're going to do, but we're going to remove two of them to put two things in. Which one should we remove?
Hmm.
Nobody's going to want a single song removed. That's the problem.
I was,
You
I
know,
was,
that
as
that's
you
the
were saying,
problem. You
as you
know,
were saying that, I was picturing a list of songs. I was going, I can't think of one that I would want to remove
yeah, let's
because I
let's
would
take
want
out
to hear
Annoyed.
all of
Let's
them
take
that
out
are there.
Destroyer. Let's take out Can't Stop Rock and Roll. Let's tear it loose. Let's take out Kids Are Back. Let's take a no.
Please
That's the
leave all
problem.
those in, man. Please just leave them
Yeah.
all
So the
in.
problem is we're going to get together. We're going to rehearse. We're going to play a bunch of songs. We're going to see which ones. And we have in our mind a couple of songs we haven't played much. And we're going to give it a shot. Let's see how it sounds.
Hmm.
We're going to see how it sounds. We did actually play at the Metal Hall of Fame show 2 years ago.
Yeah, I was going to
In
say that was a couple of years ago.
And if you
Eddie
go
couldn't
online, if
make it,
people want to
right?
know if we brought fire, watch that show. The fire
Hmm.
was no different.
It was
Exactly
incredible.
the same fire. I mean, it's amazing what happened. We just plugged in. It was like, go off to the races. "Ah!" And I even walked, I watched it later on. I went, Jesus Christ, man, where did that come from? You know where that comes from? The discipline of doing it thousands of times. That's where that comes from.
It's that
It's
muscle
being
memory
able
you were
to,
talking
it's
about.
muscle memory. You
Yeah.
turn it on and you turn it on, you let it go. And we're doing South America and Europe, and there's a whole different relationship in South America and Europe than we have in the United States with our
Yeah.
fans. It's very, very different. Um, um, they take us more seriously. Unfortunately, the band's image in America got messed up with MTV,
Yeah.
and we got lumped in a we got boy. I know that Blabbermouth is just going to jump all over this,
Oh, fuck
Ryan.
Blabbermouth.
But
I
but
could care less about
we
that.
got lumped into that whole world of goofy rock.
Yeah.
And Goofy Rock was, the Bangles, and Goofy Rock
Hmm.
was, Walk Like an Egyptian, and Goofy Rock was Devo, and Goofy
Hmm.
Rock was B-52s. And there's nothing wrong with these bands. There's nothing wrong with any of them. They all had hits, God bless them. But Twisted was a 70s bar band that made it in the 80s. We were a
Mhm.
whole different animal. And we looked the way we looked, if we didn't look the way we looked and we just looked like the MC5, we would have a whole different trajectory in our career. So what made us huge was the MTV image. What hurt us was that over the top thing. Look, Van Halen was part of Goofy Rock
Yeah,
to a
yeah.
degree with David Lee Roth, but Eddie was so good. Eddie was so brilliant that the goofiness didn't last. You know, the Beatles, Sergeant Pepper, and Magical Mystery Tour was goofy rock.
Oh,
They
totally.
got back. They got back. You know, if the Beatles, I did a whole paper for Goldmine about the difference between Elvis and the Beatles, and in the respectability. Like Elvis ended his life as a basically as a float for the Macy's Day Parade, like a complete and utter buffoon,
Oh, he
like
totally
a
was. Oh,
like
yeah.
a bloated joke. He was turned into like a bloated wedding joke in
Hmm.
Vegas. Here was a guy who defined rock and roll, who was the
Right.
hippest, coolest, most amazing performer you could ever picture, who ended his life as a bloated Macy's Day float of basically of just kind of goofy rock. So what the Beatles did was the Beatles overcame the goofiness of Sergeant Pepper, where if they ended at Sergeant Pepper, all we'd ever have is images of the Beatles with those stupid marching band suits. You realize that would have been the image. That's the lasting image of that and Magical Mystery Tour, which was the dumbest movie ever made. Like you got to be really stoned to watch that movie. And I
I
was really stoned when I watched it. And I mean, I was like on acid when I watched it in 70, whenever it was 69. And it was funny. I had to re-review it for Goldmine. I had a hard time getting through the first 10 minutes of it because it was so fucking goofy and stupid. However, the point being, they saved themselves on the White
yeah.
Album.
Hmm.
Think about that. The White Album was masterful and Abbey Road was unbelievable. Okay.
Hmm.
So the Beatles saved themselves from the goofy rock connection. And also, it's something to think about. Revolver is now credited as being the greatest Beatles album, and whether that's debatable, but
Yeah.
critics have now decided to put it above Sergeant Pepper. Well,
Hmm.
what is Revolver and the White Album have in common? Black and white,
Hmm.
no color. Think
No.
about that.
Yeah.
No color whatsoever. Just dead on serious shit. Like Revolver was just dead on serious. Here's brilliance, motherfucker.
Oh,
This
yeah.
is brilliance. And then we had Sergeant Pepper and we had Magical Mystery Tour, which by the way, I am not discounting Sergeant Pepper. It is the greatest of all. And you can talk to me about Revolver all day long. Sergeant Pepper changed the world.
Oh,
It
yeah.
changed the world. I was 15 years old. It changed the freaking world. I remember exactly where I was when I heard it. I remember whose house I was when I heard it. I remember how it altered the whole fucking universe. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
However, it was goofy. And even they talk about the fact, now they admit it. They never made a concept record. They had an idea for Sergeant Pepper and the whole album fell apart.
Hmm.
And they went, what are we going to do now? Well, all we have is a bunch of dopey songs. And George Martin said, well, why won't we just all sew them together and tell people it's a concept album? And he sewed them together. And lo and behold, they're the most avant garde band on the planet Earth. God bless them. They're my favorite band. I love them. I've heard them to death. My wife can't stand listening to them anymore. I have, I have, I have listened to every single second of every single mix of every single version. I know it inside and out, and I love them. But to be fair, the Beatles are taken seriously because Revolver, White Album, Abbey Road, which then anointed the ultimate greatness to this band. I mean, they changed the world in 64, they changed it again in 67. My point being that Twisted Sister was affected by the backlash of the goofy rock MTV era. And it took a long time to fight off of that. And when we decided to not wear makeup anymore, that was the greatest thing that happened to the band because now if you didn't like the band because of the way we looked, you don't have to worry about that anymore
Hmm.
because we don't look like that anymore. We look like, like a band, like
Right.
stage clothes, but
Hmm.
not trying to be whatever. I mean, it was started out as a transvestite band, morphed into some, crazy shock rock
Hmm.
shtick, you know, but we stopped with the makeup and it changed the trajectory. And here we are, 50. Here we are. Here
Yeah.
we are announcing a 50th anniversary, and all around the world, and everybody is like excited. So obviously we meant a lot to people, which we didn't even understand. When the
Mhm.
band disbanded in 88, I had no clue that anybody cared at all about the band. And we came back in 2003 to headline the biggest shows in the world for the next 16 years. It was a huge, that reunion was supposed to last a year. It
Yeah,
lasted till
I
2016.
remember.
And we could have continued on and played the biggest festivals in the world, headlining the biggest festivals. You could hate my band. You can go, you suck. But for all you musicians out there who are listening to this and easily want to dismiss us, here's one thing you should understand, motherfuckers. There's only a handful of bands on the planet Earth that a promoter would trust 100,000 people to entertain and make their show a hit. Because if you suck in front of 100,000 people, you have seriously fucked up a gigantic festival. You've seriously fucked the promoter and you've seriously fucked the fans. And Twisted Sister is one of maybe 20 acts in the world that promoters go, here's 100,000 people. Please entertain them.
Have fun.
And I say, you that fucking good motherfucker, play in front of 100,000 people. Let's see you do that. You don't do it because you just think it's like a fun thing to do.
No.
You do it because you learn how to do it. And that's what Twisted Sister does. We're built for that kind of performance level.
Hmm.
So, getting back to the question of how many dates we're playing, the question is how many opportunities do you have to play to crowds of 50 to 100,000 people?
Right,
And the
right.
answer is a year,
Hmm.
12 to 15.
Yeah.
That's what you do.
Hmm.
That's what you do.
Yeah.
So that's what we're doing. And will we play some others? Yeah, we'll probably play, some others somewhere along the line.
Hmm.
But for the most part, we're built to play big shows.
Right. So now in the
You know,
States, though, same thing. Like you're talking probably some of the North American based
we
rock
have no
festivals
sh-
or
we have no
whatever.
shows in the States at this point.
Oh, you don't
But
have any
we
shows in the
we
States. Okay.
no. Well, we just booked a show in Alaska, I believe,
I saw that. Yes.
because we've never played Alaska.
Oh,
And I thought this would be a fun thing to do, play
uh-huh.
Alaska. Done. It's to say I played Alaska. I've played every other state.
Yeah.
Well, I would never play Hawaii, for that matter. Come to think of it, we've stopped over in Hawaii and we've stopped over in Alaska. We never played it. Um, and I'm sure we'll play the U.S. I just don't know where
Okay.
yet. I mean, look, there's Coachella. There's some of those shows. The question is, do we fit anywhere in the pantheon of those kinds of shows? Do you play Jazz Fest? Well, Jazz Fest is a weird place because Neil Young,
Yeah.
Foo Fighters, the
Yeah.
Stones, they play Jazz Fest.
I was just
Okay, they're
looking at
not.
the bill. I was just looking
They're
at the
not.
lineup for this year coming up, and I was like,
Yeah.
it's not so much jazz anymore. I
No,
mean, it's a
no. In fact,
versatile bill.
I played Jazz Fest in a blues band 2 years ago. Foo Fighters headlined that night,
Yeah.
and the drummer for the band that I played with was Steve Jordan, the drummer for the Rolling Stones. Because the piano player who asked me to play with his band was a personal friend of Steve Jordan. So he said, "Would you play with my band at Jazz Fest?" So I went down to Jazz Fest, plugged in my guitar, did a quick rehearsal with the guy a couple of weeks earlier, and went on stage in front of 10,000 people and played Jazz Fest. And I had a hoot. I had a great time, and I realized Jazz Fest is a different animal. Have you ever been to Jazz Fest?
Oh yeah, I
Ever
grew up in New Orleans.
Oh,
Yeah.
so you
So
know how unique it is. It ends at 7 o'clock in the evening. Like
uh,
it's so bizarre to me that you would think the party goes on to midnight, but the party ends at 7, so everybody could go to the bars,
I was gonna
and the
say,
party will extend.
like the magic as you get older though, you learn that the real magic happens at Tipitina's like after 10 p.m., so it's like
Right,
I'm
right.
talking like
Yeah.
I remember my wife and I went one year and like
Or the
we went to the
Preservation Jazz Hall. That
yes,
place. I
same.
went. I,
Oh my
I went
gosh.
there. The next night was Steve Jordan and the guys in the band that I played with, and they were the greatest musicians on the planet Earth. These guys are like
Incredible.
65, 70 years old playing for tip cup money, mind
Yeah.
you.
Hmm.
Mind you, and I'm assuming they did it because they loved it.
Oh yeah, yeah. You're
Oh
also
my
born into
God.
it a lot. A lot of
Oh my
people
God.
like had family members who were part of the Preservation Hall
Yeah.
Jazz Band, and then they would, the guy that said it was Ben Jaffe. That's Rami Jaffe's brother, who is Rami's the keyboard player in the Foo Fighters. So his brother, his parents somehow were involved with Preservation Hall, you know?
Well,
So
are you familiar with DeVell Crawford? So DeVell is like the son of Jazz Fest. I mean, he's like the heir to Fats Domino. He's the guy that called me to play
yeah,
in his band. He's the guy
yeah.
that asked me to play in his band. So I go on stage, and I all these musicians are there, and I'm pretty much older than all of them actually. But I'm intimidated by it. Like I can't believe I'm on stage with these Steve Jordan. I mean, I looked at Steve Jordan. I said to DeVell, does he have a roadie? Because I don't have it. Because I had no roadie. I had to plug my own guitar in and tune it up. I haven't done that since Moby Dick was a minnow. You got to understand. I had no idea what the hell I was doing. I had to plug my own amp in and turn the volume up. I don't do that
Who's
normally.
who's doing this
And
for me? You
and I said to
know?
him, I said, Steve Jordan doesn't have a roadie. And he goes, no. I said, Steve Jordan from the Rolling Stones is going to show up, get on the kit 5 minutes before showtime, pull out a drum key, tune up his drums.
Adjust his
That's what you're
cymbals.
saying to me. And he goes, yeah, that's what I'm telling you. And lo and behold, Steve Jordan gets up on the drums 5 minutes before showtime, pulls out a drum key. I look at him. I go, hi, Steve. He goes, JJ, nice to play with you. I said, do you have any idea what the hell we're playing? He goes, no. He goes, DeVell will call him out. Why? Because all those guys are pros.
Oh
You
yeah,
know, they
yeah.
play it all the time. He goes, play Ico, play Walk on Gilded Splinters, play, Rock Roll Pneumonia, Boogie Woogie Flu, play, DeVell Crawford turns to me, he goes, JJ, you love Albert King, sing Crosscut Saw. I don't sing.
Uh,
I
you
don't
like
sing
a
DeVell.
singer?
God created Bob Dylan so I could, do cover material. Like, I don't sing. What do you mean? I'll do a Lou Reed version of Crosscut Saw.
Hey, dude,
I
whatever
did.
works for you. Yeah, exactly. And I bet they
And
fucking loved it.
you know why they loved it? Because this is what I said. I said, ladies and gentlemen, I said, my host, DeVell Crawford, the legend of New Orleans, asked me to sing a song for you. I said, now, to be honest, I've played around the world, but I've never done Jazz Fest. And it has been my dream to be on a stage with these people.
Hmm.
Place went crazy. At
Love
which point
that.
I said, I could suck and it won't really matter. You
Oh,
know what I mean? But I had a great time. I sang Crosscut Saw, loved it.
I want to see
I had a
footage of
great time.
that.
But
I
anyway,
got to see
the
footage
point
of
is,
that.
I don't know if Jazz Fest that would be a kind of a thing to do, right?
Mhm.
So who knows? I don't know. But obviously next year's schedules are already up, so we're not going to be in those big festivals.
Because I can
So
already think of just venues off the top of my head that I was like, oh my God, they would be so perfect here. But like, look, you can't let me die, JJ, and I get to see you guys at least once before you call it quits for good, man. So, if I have to fly out to fucking Alaska, I'm gonna fly out to Alaska. All right. So
well, here's the thing. Here's what I tell people about the dates. My friends are calling me up. Hey man, let me know when you're going to play. And I say to them, do I look like a fucking secretary to you? I said, there's a thing called the fucking internet. You go on the internet, you go to twistscissors.com and you look at the dates. And if there's a date near you, text me. But don't expect a fucking email telling you where I'm playing because I don't know where the fuck I'm playing unless I look online. I take my phone out. They go, where are you playing? I go, wait a minute. Hold on. What day? So I'm out to dinner with friends and they go, so where are you playing? I go, you got a phone? Put in twisted.com, hit enter, and it says dates. That's where the fuck I'm playing. Okay.
dude, that was the most New York thing, by the way. That I just loved that, man. I was just like, what do you mean? You use your fucking phone, man. It's
I mean, what
like,
am I a fucking secretary? I don't get it. Like, what do you want? An engraved fucking invitation? Just let me know. And and then by the way, after asking me like that, maybe I'll even put your name on the guest list. How's that, motherfucker? Now, unless you pay for dinner. No.
well, look, I
So
won't ask you anymore then.
so anyway, we start off at Sao Paulo, Brazil, and this is
Okay.
what I do know. Sao Paulo, Brazil, April 25. Monterrey, Mexico, April 27, I think.
Hmm.
That's not up yet, but that's coming.
Hmm.
And Monterey was our last show when we retired the last time
Yeah.
with Kiss. It was with Kiss and us did a
Hmm.
co-headlining thing in Monterey. And then on May 1st, we're playing Mexico City.
Okay.
So those are the first three shows. And
Wow.
South American fans are, oh man.
They're
Do you know
ape
that
shit
Mexico, do you
crazy.
know that, do you know that Mexico's our number one Spotify country?
No,
Yeah,
really.
yeah.
Isn't that interesting to learn that? Because for my music, I've been watching my stats because I just put out an album a couple well, last month, I should say. And my number one country was Finland. And I'm like, how the fuck did that happen? I play folk music, dude. And the age demographic was 24 to 35. I'm like, who is listening to this kind of music that's below the age of 50? I have no, but I'm like, I'm here for it. I'm glad you guys are there, you know?
Someone gave me a Spotify statistic, which actually had me dying on the floor. And I don't mean, by the way, I've got about 5 minutes.
Oh no, you're fine. Yeah, go. Yeah.
But let me just
Okay.
say that this statistic, if this is true, this is the most telling and damning statistic about what it's like to be in the music industry. So every day, hundreds of thousands of songs are dumped onto Spotify, right? Like every day, like hundreds of thousands of new songs. Someone did an analysis and found out that half the songs on Spotify, we're talking 40 million, 60 million, don't even have one play,
Oh.
which means that your mother didn't even listen to it. That's the point that's embarrassing. You made a song, you told your family, and nobody in
Nobody
your
listened
fucking
to
family
it.
went online to listen to it. That's how bad you are as an artist. Like I don't know what else to say. But how does that happen? How do you not have one? How do you just not do it yourself? Just to say there's a
Like,
play.
dude, your own wife wouldn't stream you from the car, man. Come on, dude. It's like how bad it's like you suck so bad even your parents don't lie to you. You know, like your parents are just like, no,
You know,
not gonna do it.
there's a cliche. I wrote this in my book. Just because someone says you suck doesn't mean you don't suck. You know, and
That's true.
you could actually suck.
Oh yeah.
People would say to me like, man, you guys should have made it way earlier than you made it, man. You're out there, and I don't believe that.
Mm-mm.
I believe we made it when we were supposed to make it. I believe we did suck or we weren't ready yet. We weren't
Yeah.
fully ready yet to take advantage of what was out there.
Hmm.
Yeah, it could have been a couple of years earlier because we did spend thousands of nights in the club. I mean, if you read my book, all the dates, all
Yeah.
the tour date, all the show dates are there.
Yeah.
And when people say to me, "Well, 9,000 shows, there can't be 9,000 nights," I said, "That's not how it works, fucking idiot. It's how many shows we played during the course of a night." In the early days, we're playing 5 shows a night.
Well,
Six
yeah,
nights.
because you were doing like 3 to 5 sets.
Yeah, doing 5 sets a night for 300 nights a year. It's 1,500 shows. I added up the amount of sets we played in the first 30 months of the band's existence. We played 3,500 45-minute sets. That's a
Yeah.
lot of
That's
practice.
a lot of music. That's and people don't realize that
Yeah.
like they don't realize it's again like my band was the same thing. Like I'd say like maybe like 7 or 8 years ago. I remember doing 3 sets a night at a place in Atlanta. And I was just like, how did bands do this 5 nights a week? I don't even understand.
Yeah,
Like
we
I
did
was
five.
dead after three.
We did first year, 2 years was 5 shows a night. 40 on, 20 off, 40 on, 20 off, starting at
Mhm.
9, 10, 11, 12, and 1, and ended at 140. And on weekends, there was show bands, and a lot of these were cabaret clubs. We've
Mhm.
been around so
Yeah.
long, we opened for oldies bands. I mean, no, seriously, we opened for Little Anthony and the Imperials, and we opened
Mhm.
for the Coasters. It's the oldies bands, right? And they were
Right.
oldies back 50 years ago, they were oldies
Yeah,
bands.
yeah, I was gonna say they were already classic then.
They were
Yeah.
already classic then. So, and so you go on stage at 9, 10, 11. Then there's a floor show that goes on for 2 hours. And you go on stage at 2 and 3, and you end at 3:40 in the morning.
Mhm.
And there was one club called Dunes Till Dawn near Atlantic City. And only bands that played there understood why it was called Dunes Till Dawn.
Mhm.
That's because your last show was 5 to 5:40 in the morning. And in the summertime, when 5:40 comes on, they open up the doors and the sun pours
Just
out.
poor.
And
Yeah.
who's ever left in the club, whatever dregs of humanity are still there, are shuffled out and dropped and deposited on the front lawn, which looks like a line for extras from Night of the Living Dead. So they put these poor people out there at 5:40 in the morning, and they're all wasted. And where do they go? Up the street, there's another bar open until 10 a.m. So this shows you a circuit that nobody will understand.
Right.
It doesn't exist
Yeah.
anymore. Drinking age was 18. That doesn't exist anymore. When the drinking age was 18, Fake proof was easy to make in shop class. Not that anybody knows what shop class is anymore.
I
You
was about
may
to say,
know.
do they? Oh, I remember shop class, dude. I'm yeah. Let me.
Yeah, but nobody, I don't believe the shop class exists anymore. I mentioned it to kids. They have no idea what
I
I'm
don't
talking.
think they do. I just remember my friend made water pipes. Me and him, you
Yeah.
know.
So making fake proof was easy. There was no
Oh
seal.
yeah.
There was nothing. Get a guy, fairly good artist could, and then you did mimeograph machines and you ran them off and you sold fake proof for $5. I mean, so what do you get when you got 18-year-old drinking age and fake proof? You got 15-year-old kids, of which there's thousands of them, and the clubs were huge.
Yeah.
Well, here's what's truly scary about that time. I can't tell you how many times I would hear this, like, "Hey man, I got so wasted last night. I don't know how the fuck I got home, man. I drove home." And you go, "Really? So you drove home wasted.
I
You
still
don't
hear
even
that.
know how you drove home, but you got behind the wheel of a car. You put your life in danger and the danger of other people, which they did all the time." I'd like to think that doesn't exist like that. You still hear those kinds of stories now?
Oh, I mean, I heard it as recently as just like 3 or 4 years ago when I was in Atlanta. Before we moved here to South Carolina, I literally overheard somebody talking and someone saying, "How are you getting home?" He's like, "I'm driving, dude. I've got this." And I looked over and I went over to somebody. I was like, "Should somebody call him an Uber or something?" I was like, "Cause I don't know if that's a good idea." And before I could even turn my head, he was gone. And my first thought was, I'm sitting here for about 45 minutes before I get in the car and leave. I was
Yeah, well,
like,
I think statistically, 10 years in the bars, driving home every night, the fact that we didn't see more car accidents
Mhm.
or we weren't involved in them is astonishing because there was a lot of shit going on.
No,
You know,
100%.
because of that's all the ancillary stuff in the process of trying to make it, which of course bands don't deal with anymore because no one plays live because there's no place to play. There's no learning curve anymore. What kills me is TV shows like The Voice and American
Mm-mm.
Idol. This is what kills me.
I hate it.
The winner says the following after they win a record deal. "I'd like to thank my fans for staying with me for 15 weeks."
Jesus
15
Christ,
weeks.
fucking A, dude.
I'm like,
It's like,
are you fucking
it's
serious?
like,
Like
here's
15
a
weeks? Like, how about,
pacifier. Shut the fuck
yeah,
up.
exactly. Like when they're with you for 30 years, motherfucker, then thank your fans. It's like 15 weeks. So this instant gratification shit, which is a problem that young people
Yeah.
have. I don't mean to paint with a broad brush for those of you who are listening and care to comment about this because JJ is just being too judgmental. I'm not saying everybody acts like this, but what I am
No.
saying is, though, there is an expectation of entitlement
Mm.
with some people. And Twisted never had that expectation. We just
No.
worked. We worked our ass off. And all the bands that, people go, "How do you like that band? They suck. They suck." I go, if any band becomes successful, it doesn't suck to me because whatever they did was really hard,
Mhm.
really hard. And, I may not love the music, but who cares? I give them ultimate respect because it's a tough business.
Yeah.
It's really, really tough business.
Look, I tell people all the time, I said, I fucking hate tomatoes. I hate tomatoes and I hate onions. That does not mean that everyone who has tomatoes and onions is gonna suck or that I'm not gonna be like, I can't believe you like tomatoes. You must be a shit human being. You know what I mean? And so when I hear bands, like I get judgmental right away, but then real quick I try to snap myself out of it and go, they did something right because they're there and I'm not. So I fucked up
Yeah,
somewhere,
yeah.
you know?
Yeah,
You
no,
know?
it is tough. And every band, people, "You suck." I go, "Yeah, everybody sucks." Like it's always easy to say it. I have to tell you, when I started going to concerts when I was 17, 18 years old back in 69,
Mhm.
we didn't know "you suck" was a phrase about everything was new and great. Everything was new and great because every week at the Fillmore, you saw Jeff Beck, you saw Janis Joplin, you saw the Grateful Dead, you saw Connie and the Fish, you saw Iron Butterfly, you saw the Youngbloods, you saw Leslie West, you saw Mountain, you saw
Yeah,
Cream, you saw the Rolling Stones. Like every week in New York City,
yeah.
that's what you saw. Nobody sucked.
No.
You walked out of the Fillmore every night. I would come home. I went there almost every weekend. I would come home at 4 in the morning after seeing whoever and put the guitar on and pretend I was that person. I
Oh
saw the
yeah.
Allman Brothers' very first show in New York. They opened for the Grateful Dead.
That's a legendary show.
Yeah, it was Love. It was Allman Brothers Love and the Grateful Dead. I was at both nights, and it was legendary. It was great. Well, Love, I happen to love. Okay, but you have to be into them to understand. I was way more into Love than the Allman Brothers. The
Oh,
Allman Brothers were
uh,
good, but Love was fantastic. I'll tell you what the Allman Brothers, however, as a guitar player, I can tell you one thing that they did was in those days, almost all American bands played through Fender amplifiers because that's what
mhm.
they played through Fender or maybe Music Bands, but Fenders were really big.
Yeah.
No one played through Marshalls except for Jimi Hendrix.
Hmm.
And the British bands played through Marshalls, but the American bands didn't. But the Allman Brothers played through Marshalls, and Blackfoot played through Marshalls.
Oh
And the
yeah.
reason why is they were heavy bands.
Oh yeah.
They were heavy with heavy Les Pauls and heavy blues based. And you don't get that out of a whiny little Fender amp. You just don't get it. You got it. You need the weight
Yeah.
behind it. So the Almonds, they were using, those guys weren't stupid. They knew
Yeah.
exactly who they were
Yeah.
and how great they were. I did remember Whipping Post, you know. I do remember
Yep.
Whipping Post. Just
That
watching those
thumping. I
guitar
can't even
players.
imagine that thumping. Just like in the Fillmore, like I couldn't just imagine it. It was just
It was,
like
and
rattle your chest.
both drummers were great.
Oh
They were
God.
phenomenal, and the
Yeah.
bands, all the bands were great. But I saw the Almonds many times after that, and they were always phenomenal.
Hmm.
Just a great, 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 great band. Just wonderful. But I'm a blues guy
Yeah.
more than anything else. So that's that style of guitar playing. But in 1969, I wrote an article for a magazine. So I write for a bunch of magazines right now. I write for a magazine I write for Goldmine magazine
Hmm.
occasionally, and I write for the Tracking Angle, which is a high-end audio magazine. But I wrote an article for Goldmine called 1969, the year my guitar heroes roamed the earth, and I wrote down all the guitar players I saw in 1969, like just that year alone,
Right.
and it was Johnny Winter, Muddy Waters, B.B. King, Alvin Lee, 10 years after, Jerry
Yeah.
Garcia 5 times, the
Hmm.
Rolling Stones, Mick Taylor and Keith Richards 3 times, Jimi Hendrix twice, Led Zeppelin 4 times. I saw Jimmy Page 4 times, Jeff Beck Group twice. This gives you an idea of the guys I saw in just that year. In
It's
just that
incredible.
year, right? So if you're a guitar player and you want inspiration, and you could have seen Jimi Hendrix twice, Jeff Beck 3 times, Jerry Garcia 5 times, the Rolling Stones 3 times,
Fucking Alvin Lee, dude. You guys
Alvin
just
Lee 10 years
fucking got
after.
Jesus
Yeah, Alvin Lee
Christ.
10 years after, Jimi Hendrix twice. I saw Hendrix at the Garden, and I saw him at the Band of Gypsies at the Fillmore East 10th Row Center. I'll never forget it. Greatest night I'd ever seen a guitar player play. Leslie West Mountain, saw Mountain's second show ever. That was the day before Woodstock. They had only played one show. Do you know Woodstock was Mountain's third concert?
That is,
They played one show upstate. They drove to New York City, played Ungano's, which is a little bar on 70th Street off of Broadway.
uh,
Became famous. I saw millions of great artists at Ungano's, but they played Ungano's. In fact, this picture, which I'm holding up, of Leslie West playing a Les Paul Jr.,
look at that. The
this
thing
was
is like,
taken at the Fillmore. No, this was taken at Woodstock. I saw him the night before Woodstock. He was wearing the exact same clothes and played that Les Paul, which is why I own a Les Paul Jr. And after their set was done, he went, I can't do an encore. We're going upstate to play Woodstock tomorrow. So that's what he said. So I saw that. And there was no one in the club that night. There was no one there. There was like maybe 30 people in the rooms. I was sitting like right in front of him with his Les Paul Jr. Never heard anything like it. I saw Free that year, Paul Kossoff. I stood at Ungano's. I stood 2 feet away from him when he played.
mhm.
I saw Delaney and Bonnie play. I saw Blind Faith play that
Oh
year.
my
That's all
God.
19. That's all just 1969. Okay,
And
that's
that's like
every
just the tip.
weekend.
That's like the beginning. Like that's just where it's
Yeah,
starting to like pop, you
yeah.
know?
So if you were a fan of the music, that's what you had.
It,
Great.
well, you know what, dude? Twisted Sister is my band, and I know that band, I know you guys belong to a lot of people, but this Twisted Sister is my band and it always will be. And look, it was a gas talking to you the first time to do this again, man. Like I am so flattered that you even took the time to talk to this blowhard from New Orleans, you know? So, but
Well, listen, man, I thank you for having me on. I'd just like to say that I do have a podcast called the JJ French Connection on Spotify, and I have a lot of interesting people on it. Lately, I'm gone into a high-end audio craze. Like that's what I'm obsessed with. Of that's a whole other world of insanity, but that's a world that I'm kind of writing about. I write for a magazine called The Tracking Angle, which is available online. I do I do reviews of silly high-end audio gear. Not silly, but just to the average
it's
person,
like
they may go,
over the top, probably. You know what I mean? Like just like I can think about all the ridiculous things that I care about that my wife is like, why? Like, why
yeah,
does it
people don't
matter that you have
understand.
this microphone for
Yeah,
guitar? This mic, I'm like, you don't understand the
yeah,
cardioid
people
in
don't
this one. You
understand that
know?
there's people don't understand that there's $100,000 turntables and $200,000 speakers and $400,000 home stereo amplifiers and music streamers and speaker cable that costs $20,000 and AC power cords that cost $12,000. Nobody gets it, and I'm not justifying it. I'm just saying it's a world that I play in. It's kind of like I don't own a Bugatti, but for people who sell Bugattis, it's a nice life that you sell Bugattis and somebody buys Bugattis. The average person wouldn't fucking have a clue, but some people buy Bugattis. And so I'm in that Bugatti world of high end audio, and I do understand it to be so out there, but it's an interesting world. Anyway, I digress. Twisted is really happy to be back and really happy. Hopefully, the people listening to this will be able to get a chance to see the band one more time and enjoy it. I certainly am going to be one of those fans, and I'm going to be on stage playing it. But I will appreciate the fact, and the love we get is spectacular. You know, if someone said to me, you know, how hard is it? And I go, it's hard, except that when you're standing there and 100,000 people are singing, we're not going to take it with you. It doesn't suck. It's one of the greatest experiences you could ever feel. You know, it's justification for all the sacrifices that we made. If you read my book, Twisted Business, which is available on Amazon, I'm pushing that too.
And it's an incredible book, by the way. I've
It
read it
explains the
twice.
entire, wow, it explains the whole story of the band and why the band has lasted all this time. And to Dee and to Eddie, you know, these are my brothers, my sisters, you know. Portnoy would have been with us, except that he was still had Dream Theater dates.
Yeah,
So he
yeah,
couldn't commit. Like we knew when this was coming, and he said, "Dude, I can't right now tell you because Dream Theater is my band now."
yeah.
And we went, got it. So we got Joe Franco, who was our former drummer, who plays on Love
He
Is for
played on Love Is
Suckers,
for Suckers. Yeah,
and he did the Love Is for Suckers tour with us.
yeah.
And
And he was also in Widowmaker with D.
oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Oh, he also with Leslie West Mountain. I mean, he's been with
Oh,
everybody.
I mean, he's okay, you know.
Yeah, he wrote the book on double bass drumming. As a matter of fact, he's
Good. Dude, he was so good at it in the Widowmaker video. There's a scene of just his feet, like behind the. You know? And I was just like, that's fucking badass, though. But
yeah, Joe's great, and I've known Joe because he was in the Good Rats, and Joe and I have been friends. Actually, I met Joe before I met D. I go back even further with
that is
Joe. I
incredible.
met yeah. So anyway,
Us-
we're looking
us-
forward to playing.
yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, man.
And,
You get one thing going here in America that isn't Alaska, and I'm gonna be there, dude, because
well,
it's
go
gotta happen.
online, motherfucker, and look.
Hey, when are you playing, Jay? Should I email you after this and be like, hey man, what dates are you coming? Just be like, dude, you are barred from the fucking show. Don't let the dude in. He's toast. Forget him.
Never, never.
Jay, you're the best. Again, Twisted is one of those bands I gravitate to. Like when I need it the most, y'all are there, man. And I I appreciate that always.
I'm going to tell you what used to tell my brother. So my brother was a school teacher.
Hmm.
Okay, a great school teacher, really great.
Hmm.
And I said to my brother, "What the thing that makes me the happiest is I try to undo every night in 2 hours what you spend 8 hours doing during the day."
My job is to make your job way harder. You know?
Yeah, I try to undo all that good stuff that you did. My job is to undo every bit of that
It's
job
like,
that you
fuck
did.
you, John. I can't believe you're doing this. But you're like, dude, I'm making job security for you, though. You know what I mean? Like,
So,
you're kind of working with each other. But real quick, before we go, I just
yeah,
had to tell you,
yeah.
this is it. I didn't get to shit. This is my Westone Electra.
Oh,
This is the one. I don't know if you can see. It's just like, you know,
wow.
This is the guitar.
That's your baby. Is that your desert island guitar?
This is my desert island guitar. Matter of fact, it's going to the luthier next week to have some rewiring done, and it needs some new frets on it. But like, I'm actually gonna start playing it again, like on my next album I'm working on.
So in honor of Leslie and his 54 Les Paul Jr., right? Is my 54 Les Paul.
Oh, look at dude! I never thought I'd get to flex guitars with JJ French online, man. This is
That is
incredible.
my desert island guitar.
That is beautiful, though. Oh my God.
Yeah, I've owned it. I've owned this guitar since 1984. I bought it on the Stay Hungry tour from a guitar seller in Minnesota for $300.
That is incredible. My
So
dad paid $280 for this, and he gave me a PV Audition 20 amplifier with it. And my dad said, "You got 6 months. If you can't play a song in 6 months, you have to pay me back every dollar that I spent on that guitar." 6 months later, I played Highway to Hell for him, and my dad goes, "Not what I had in mind, but you're good."
you passed the audition.
Yeah, I was like, "Well, you didn't tell me what song, man." I was like, and he was just like, "Yeah, okay." He goes, "You won that one,
All
though."
right.
Well, Jay, thank
All
you
right,
again
man.
so
I gotta
much. And
run. Thank you.
all right, and look, you guys have a great holiday too, man, and try to enjoy a little bit of breathing time there. So,
I certainly will. Thank you.
Jay, thank you so much, man. I appreciate you.
Welcome to the lair of dawn. Welcome